Well, thank you for joining me on my bike ride today. I was thinking there's an old saying in bicycling that says, if you look down, you'll go down. And what that refers to is the fact that the only way to make sure that you don't crash is to keep your head up and paying attention to what's in front of you. If you spend too much time looking down, or heaven forbid, looking behind you, then you're distracted, and before you know it, something can creep up on you, and the next thing you know, you're on the ground wondering, how in the world did this happen? Well, it happened because I took my eye off the ball, or not paying attention to what was coming up in front of me. And I think it's the same way in life. If we spend too much time looking down, before we know it, a year's gone by, and then we say to ourselves, how in the world did that happen? Well, it happened because I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't looking ahead and choosing the path that I'm on. Now, heaven forbid also, instead of looking down, if I'm spending time looking back, because everything behind me is history. Everything in front of me is where I'm going to. And right now, here on my bike, this is where I am right now in the present. So I think we have 3 different times in our life that we need to pay attention to. The first one is where I have been. That's back there. That's history. That's things that I used to do or had done, my career, other achievements that I've done in my life. That's over and done with. The second point is the future, or what I'm in the process of becoming. Where am I going to? And then the third part is being. Being is right now, right here, in the present moment. So in bicycling, if I want to keep myself as safe as possible, I need to keep my head up, my eyes focused on what's ahead of me, and choosing the path that I want to take. If I'm not doing that, I run the risk of something slipping up on me, and before I know it, I find myself in an emergency situation, or maybe worse yet, crashing and ending up on the ground. And I think life is exactly the same way. We need to keep heads up, focused on where we're going, choosing the path that we want to take. That keeps us heading forward and making decisions about where we're going and what we're getting ready to do. Now, when it comes to retirement, I don't think retirement is the end of the road. I think retirement is nothing more than a turn into a new dimension of my life. What I have been is behind me. That's back there. That's the history part. Where I'm going to and what I'm becoming is in front of me. And that's the unknown. And sometimes the unknown can feel a little bit scary and uncertain. But where I am right now and what I'm being is what's most important. Because here is where I get to make a decision about the direction that I'm going to take, the path forward, in other words. So that's the 3 different points in time that I think we need to be aware of. What am I in the process of becoming? That's the future. Where have I been? That's the past, the history part. And where am I right now in the process of being? And how am I going about choosing what direction it is that I'm going forward? I think when we do that, then life has more meaning, and it doesn't creep up on us suddenly and we realize, heck, a year has just gone by and I don't even remember what I did during that last year. So here's the question that I have for you. Since this is how we can spend our time, either becoming, been, or being, where are you spending your time? Where is the majority of your focus as the day goes on? And I think if you have a purpose and you're working on that purpose, then you're more of a heads up, forward focused on that path because you have a purpose in what you're doing. There's meaning and importance to those activities. Now, one of the real advantages of spending more time being and paying attention to what we're doing is that we have more time to appreciate where we are and what we're doing. That means I have more time to stop and take photographs of things that I see as compared to riding past them and missing them altogether. So let's think about what happens when we are either more focused on what we're becoming, or focused on what we have been, or focused on what we're being. Now, if I'm too focused on the future, what's out in front of me up here, then I'm not paying any attention to what I'm doing right at the moment. I'm too consumed about what might be happening down the road. If I'm more focused on where I've been or who I've been, then same thing happens. I miss out on what I'm currently doing. And if I'm spending more time being focused, then I can appreciate more where I am, what I'm doing, and what's going on around me. So the only way to really enjoy a bicycle ride is to be focused right now, here in the moment. Now, sure, we all spend time kind of jumping between those three different areas, but it's which one of those is consuming the most amount of my time? That's the question. Okay, so it's just a given that if you spend too much time looking down or too much time looking behind you, you're going to go down. Something's going to come up and surprise you and catch you off guard, and you won't have enough time to react. I think life is exactly the same way. If we spend too much time looking back, then we're not paying attention to what we're doing right now in the moment. And if I don't pay attention to what's coming up in front of me, something's going to come along and surprise me. So it's not just about choosing one over the other, it's about which is the best one right now for me to spend my time in. So I think it's silly to say always be in the present moment or always be focused on the future. I think we have to have a combination of those and, in a sense, have them in balance. Now, here's another thing about bicycling. The faster you're going, the further out in front of you have to focus, because naturally things are coming at you much faster and you need more time to react. The slower you go, then you bring your focus down closer to the front wheel. And that way I don't get caught off guard and end up crashing because I just wasn't paying attention to what was either coming at me or I was spending too much time looking down. So when I first retired, I realized I all of a sudden had more time to spend on thinking about being and what it was I was in the process of becoming. And that meant that I needed to shift my thinking to paying more attention to what direction I want to go in and where do I want to be 5 years down the road. See, this is an example of what I mean about looking up. We need to see what's coming at us so we don't end up running into something because we weren't paying attention. That's all. So that shift meant that I now had more time to think about what I was doing and what did I want to become in the future in my retirement years. So let's switch over, go take a look at the whiteboard and look at some of the behaviors that we see in each one of those three areas. Well, thank you for joining me inside and continuing the talk about these three areas of time. Been, being, and becoming. Another way that we hear these referred to a lot is the past, the present, and the future. Now, there are certain things that take place when we are living mentally in one of these three different areas. If we've focused on where we have been, then we talk about things that have happened. They're over and done with. They're history. If I'm talking about being, and if that's where I'm spending my time, I'm really focused on currently what's happening right now. And if I'm out here in the future looking at becoming, this is something that could possibly happen, but hasn't happened yet. All right, continuing that. If we're focused on been, now we're on past events. If I'm in the being, I'm currently focused on what's happening right now. And if I'm out here in the future, what might happen. It's something that could happen down the road and it could not. Also, if I'm back here in the bin, it's over and done with and there's no way to change that. So from my past events, there are lessons that I can learn. And I can use those lessons going forward. So when we think about these three different areas, please don't try and think about them as one is right and one is wrong, one is good or one is bad. It doesn't work that way. There are advantages and disadvantages to all three different areas of time. Now, if I'm in the being, and I'm not learning from the lessons, I'm taking those lessons and using those to allow me to adapt, to evolve, to grow, and to learn from what has happened before. If I'm looking at becoming, now I'm trying to anticipate what might have to happen before something comes up. Lastly, if I'm in the been part, I can be real nostalgic and I can start thinking things were better back then. And I can get kind of hung up in that, and that leads a lot of times to a feeling of regret. If I'm focused on being, I realize I have control over what I'm doing right now. Don't have control over this anymore because it's over and done with. And if I'm focused on becoming, there's a momentum out here to moving forward. So if I'm thinking about what I would like to become, then I'm planning for and trying to build momentum into becoming that. So again, not good, not bad, not one is right and one is wrong. And I think it's silly to say we should always be right here now in the moment. Because if I'm here all the time in the moment, some things out here that I could have anticipated and planned for are going to sneak up on me. Spending all my time back here leaves me usually with a feeling of regret or that I should have done something that I didn't do. Another way of saying that is, if I spend too much time out here on this pulls me in a direction where I'm too far out in front of myself. If I'm over here, this pulls me in a direction where I'm going and thinking about how good things would have been if. And if I'm here, now I know that's where I can be present. That's where I can now adapt and take control over what I'm currently doing. So here's how I like to think about these three areas. Because as I mentioned, one's not good and one is not bad. I like to think about them this way. There's a certain part of my time that needs to be here so I can learn from what has happened. And there's a certain part of my time that needs to be here so I can anticipate what's coming up and think about future things. And I can spend time here. So I think these three should overlap. But here's the real question. After looking at this, I think what we really need to ask ourselves is, where do I spend the majority of my time? And if I'm spending time in an area where I realize that's really not working for me right now, I can change that quickly and I can bring that into my focus to think, you know, maybe I've been spending a little bit too much time here and I need to shift over here into this area. That's our choice, because where I spend my time determines how I live. By the way, I forgot to mention, if you would like a PDF of this information, the link is in the description to this video below where you can download it.